In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet the rice stitch. Really lovely stitch, gives a lovely bit of texture to it, and because it's a repeated pattern of one row repeat, it is the same on the back as it is on the front. So it's just a combination of front post and back post trebles. So let's have a look at how to do it. Hello, my name's Karen Stangram and welcome to Conquer Crochet, the channel for tips, tricks and techniques for conquering your crochet. So for this tutorial I'm using a double knit cotton. I've decided to use a slightly bigger hook than recommended. I'm using a 4.5mm rather than the recommended 4. I have scissors to cut off my end, needle to sew in my end, and a stitch marker just in case I need one. So we're going to start off with a slip knot. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. We're going to make a foundation chain to start our work, and you can make this foundation chain as long as the piece of work that you're making, but you do need to make sure that you do it with an odd number of chains. So for this sample piece I'm going to be making 15 chains, so if you'd like to join along with me we're going to do 15, and if not, I'll see you in a moment. If you're joining along, then pause the video now. Okay, so we have our 15 chains there. Now I'm going to make a treble stitch, that's UK terminology, in US that would be a double, in the third chain from the hook. So we don't count the one on the hook, so 1, 2, 3, we're going in with a treble. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, just have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And this is a foundation row, this row won't be repeated, so we're going to do trebles all the way back down our chain. Now the 2 chains that we have at the beginning here do not count as a stitch, so we won't be counting those later on when we add up our trebles. So crochet your trebles all the way down to the end, and I will join you at the end of the row. So I've crocheted all my trebles down to the end of the row, and I'm just going to double check that I have an odd number. It's worth checking at this point to make sure. Now remember, we're not counting this 2 chain here as a stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I have an odd number. So just double check that you have got that odd number before you move on. So we're going to move on to the next row, and this is the repeated row throughout the whole pattern. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn, and then in that very first stitch, that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, so in the very first stitch here we're going to do a half treble. That's a half double in US terminology. So we yarn over and insert, yarn over, pull through, you should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So in the next stitch is going to be a front post treble, which means we're going to be working behind the stitch, behind that treble stitch that we made in the previous row. So to do that we're going to yarn over, insert in that little gap before the post, go behind the post and come out the other side, yarn over, pull back through, you have 3 loops on your hook, and then complete as you would an ordinary treble. And you'll see that it's just pushed that stitch forward. The next stitch is a back post treble. So to do that we yarn over and we find the gap between the treble that we've just worked and the treble that we're going to work, and we come in from behind. So go behind your stitches, come in front of the treble, back out the other side at the back, yarn over, pull back through, and you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you have 1 stitch that's been pushed forward, the next stitch has been pushed back. In the next stitch we're going to do a front post treble, so yarn over, in through the front, behind and back out the front, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. In the next stitch, yarn over, coming from behind, in front, because we're doing our back post treble, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. The next one is a front post, and we just continue this way all the way down the row. So you always start with a half treble and then a front post. Then you do back post, front post, back post, front post, and you continue all the way down your row until you get to the last 2 stitches, and then I'll show you what we need to do there. So pause the video now whilst you complete your row. So we come up to the end with our last 2 stitches, and we've got a back stitch for the last stitch, so we need to do a front post treble, and then in the very last one we're going to do a half treble. So we always finish on a front post treble, we always start on a front post treble, and we start the row with a half treble and a half treble. So let's chain 1 and turn our work. Things are a little bit different on this side now. We're doing exactly the same stitches. So in the first stitch, so we've chained 1, our first stitch is a half treble every single time. Now we're going to do our front post treble, but you'll see that that post, I move it a bit closer if I can get the autofocus to work, that is being pushed back and we need to now pull it forward. So we're going to go in, and you might have to sort of move back a bit more than normal just to pull that one forward and complete your treble. And this one feels like it's right at the front, and we're going to be pushing that one back. So yarn over, come in from the back, over the top, then we do a front post and a back post, and a front post and a back post, and we continue all the way down the row until you get just before the end, and I want to show you something that's slightly different at the end of this row. So pause the video now whilst you complete your row, and I will see you at the end. So I've got my last 2 stitches here at the end, so I'm going to do my front post, and what you might find is quite difficult to actually see your stitches, so you might just have to pull that one apart just to make sure you can see that one, because it's sort of slightly hidden by the half treble there. So bring that one forward with the front post treble, and obviously we don't have the 3 chain at the beginning, so we're just going to do a half treble in the top of that last stitch. And there we have it. So basically from now on it's just a case of chain 1, half treble in the very first stitch, front post, back post, front post, back post, all the way down to the end. When you get to the last front post, then do a half treble. So I'm just going to work up a few more rows for you to see how it looks as it develops, and I will see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows for you to see how the pattern develops, and it's a really lovely stitch. Very simple to do, but very effective. You get a beautiful texture on it. It would make a beautiful coaster, make a lovely scarf. It would be a brilliant stitch for a blanket. Probably not for a baby blanket because of the holes, might get fingers caught in between, but for a blanket for an adult, that would be great. So that's how to do rice stitch.